Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Friday, November 10th, 2023. Time for Ask the Judge. So what we've done is we've gone through the questions that were online already in the past 10 or 15 minutes. I've picked out the ones that interest me the most, and I will go through them. And if there's more that come in as follow-up questions during the show, we'll get to those as well. So, Chris, you can just pop the first one up. Kill switches in cars sold after 2026 was just voted for. Isn't that a violation of our right to travel freely? It absolutely is a violation of our right to travel freely. I read this morning on Tom Woods's column a transcript of the debate between Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Congressman Thomas Massie on the floor of the House. It wasn't really a debate. Congressman Massie was engaging her. Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz was reading from prepared arguments that she or someone had prepared for her. But the government is of the view that it should be able to tell us when we are too dangerous to drive, and that it can force automobiles to stop us from automobile manufacturers to put an algorithm in the car to stop the car from running when the algorithm tells the computer that we're too dangerous to drive. Congressman Massie points out that the federal government has nothing whatsoever to do with safety on the highways. It's nowhere in the Constitution. Neither is federal highways in the Constitution. That this is an issue for state governments, and 37 state governments have addressed the problem of drunk driving in a variety of ways. Nevertheless, the House of Representatives, Republicans joining Democrats, voted in favor of the kill switch. The kill switch doesn't let automobile drivers throw the switch. It compels them to throw the switch. It is the federal government taking over safety on the highways. It is a bunch of political hacks creating an algorithm to decide who can drive and who can't drive. What is driving? Driving is the modern day extension of the right to travel, just like owning an AR-15 is the modern day right to self-defense. The right to travel is a natural right. You don't believe me? Read Shapiro versus Thompson, the leading Supreme Court opinion. I think it's around 1969, calling the right to travel a fundamental liberty, a pre-political liberty, a fancy phrase for it. It comes from our humanity. Your right to go from New York to New Jersey, or Massachusetts to Rhode Island, or New Jersey to California is a natural fundamental right. And with the exception of paying your way for the use of the roads by the tolls that are there, the government cannot interfere with that right. And when it does so, it is interfering with a fundamental right, absent due process, and that's unconstitutional. And the government can't do indirectly by making the car manufacturers install these kill switches what the Constitution prohibits it from doing directly, deciding who can travel and who can't. Great question. I'm sorry we have these issues, but I'm happy to answer it. Hi, Jacula Spectacular. Great nickname. Hi, Judge. We've been hearing a lot lately about Israel's collective punishment. Legally, what's the difference between collective punishment and collateral damage? Is it just intent? Thank you, Jack. Yes, Jack, it is a question of intent. Now, both phrases, collective punishment and collateral damages, are not legal phrases. These are political and philosophical phrases to characterize the behavior of governments. So collective punishment basically means you're going to punish a group of people from which the evildoers came. The Nazis did this in World War II. The Israelis are doing it now. It is an intent to harm the group from which the evildoer or the wrongdoer came. Collateral damage is not an intent to harm. So you're right. The issue is what's in the brain of the person who pulls the collateral damage is where the government makes every effort to target just the evildoer, but by the force of nature, because a building came down, innocent individuals are harmed as well. It's all the difference in the world. Collective punishment is a war crime. Collateral damage is not. But you would have to demonstrate before the War Crimes Tribunal, if anybody's ever going to be prosecuted for this stuff, what your intention was. Great question, Jack. Jackula Spectacular. Your questions are always great. Keep them coming. Chris. John Parsons, are independent federal agencies such as the Federal Reserve, OMC, I'm not sure what OMC is, constitutional or a violation of Article 2 as they usurp executive authority? They're actually a violation of Article 1. Article 1 is the article in the Constitution that gives power to Congress. When Congress cedes away that power, gives it to the president, like lets the president start a war, or gives it to the Federal Reserve, like it lets the Federal Reserve print cash, or gives it to the Food and Drug Administration by letting the Food and Drug Administration write laws that govern food and drugs. That is profoundly unconstitutional. Why? I'm quoting the late Justice Antonin Scalia, my friend now, because all power comes from the Constitution. And the Constitution delegates power to the Congress. It delegates power to the president. It delegates power to the judiciary. Delegated power cannot be delegated away. A federal judge can't say to a lawyer, I'm going to give my power to preside over this trial to you. The president can't say to Congress, I'm going to let you decide how war should be waged. And the Congress can't say to the president, I'm going to let you decide against whom we should wage war. Similarly, Congress can't say to the president, okay, appoint some commissioners and some bureaucrats, and they'll decide how much cash should be printed, and they'll decide what food and drugs are safe. In my view, it's none of the government's business what food and drugs are safe. It would be in the real world, and in a free market world, it would be up to insurance companies to insure the product. And because insurance rates would go through the roof on products that were not safe, the producer of the product has a financial incentive to keep the product safe. But whenever government gets involved, you have regulations that raise the cost. When insurance companies get involved and it's the free market and there's free competition, the price goes down. Why do we have the separation of powers? Not to shore up Congress or shore up the president, but to separate power so that not too much of it is collected in one place, to assure personal liberty. As Madison wrote the Constitution, there would be no bleeding of power from the Congress to the president, from the president to the courts, from the courts to the Congress. But that bleeding occurs all the time today because nobody gives a damn in government. There are exceptions. Congressman Andy Biggs, Congressman Thomas Massey, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Paul's father, the great Ron Paul when he was in Congress. But by and large, members of Congress don't give a damn about their oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. They just want to get reelected. Okay, Chris. From Mahmoud El Kholi, fan from Egypt. Is Israel committing war crimes beyond doubt? Absolutely, beyond a doubt. Israel is committing war crimes because of what we just talked about, the concept of collective punishment. Collective punishment is by definition, though not a legal term, a political term that defines a war crime. When 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 people out of a group commit a crime, and instead of punishing the 1 or 2 or the 10, you kill thousands in the same group. By definition, that's a war crime. Ethnic cleansing is a war crime. Carpet bombing is a war crime. The American government carpet bombed Germany when it was on the verge of surrendering in World War II. That's Eisenhower, FDR, and Churchill. Well, it was Truman at the time. FDR was dead. A war crime. Bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing innocent civilians when the government was on the verge of surrendering, a war crime. Will Prime Minister Netanyahu be prosecuted? I don't know. There will be a great investigation in Israel once this war is over, and the Israeli government will decide whose fault was it, who permitted this to happen, who ordered the Israeli military to kill innocents, including innocent Israelis, since we know the Israeli military killed some people, some Israeli civilians who they thought were being captured as hostages, killed some of their own military who they thought were being captured as hostages. Who authorized this, Bibi? Was it you? I think a day of reckoning will come. Great question. Chris? Think for yourself. Now, Mr. or Ms. Think for Yourself has written a number of questions. I picked out a lot of them, and I realized they're all from the same person. Wherever you are, thank you for the questions. Great questions. What did Kissinger mean when he said to be an enemy of America can be dangerous, to be a friend can be fatal? What he meant is that those who rely on American money and giveaways will lose the money and giveaways when they're no longer politically popular. And then you're stuck holding the bag, like Ukraine. Ukraine without America is bankrupt. 2 years ago, it was popular for the government, the Congress, to fund Ukraine. It's no longer popular. Members of Congress will only do and always do. There are some exceptions. Libertarians on the right, progressives on the left, people who have a moral sense. But for the most part, the vast majority of members of Congress will always and only do what they think will get them reelected. And if it is no longer in their reelection interests to fund or serve or have the back of a foreign country, they'll stop it. You will see that right under your nose in Ukraine. We never should have been helping Ukraine in the first place. But it's fatal for the Zelensky government to be America's friend because America has lost interest because it's no longer politically popular. Chris, have we finished with them? No. Patrick Jean-Claude. Patrick Jean-Claude, another great questioner. Patrick, Judge, many Americans still believe the 2020 election result was fraudulent and the Democrats stole it. Are you confident the election is going to be safe and secure in 2024? Thanks and Godspeed. Thank you for the thanks and Godspeed. Godspeed to you. Godspeed to all of you. I do not believe the 2020 election was fraudulent. The reason I don't believe it is because of the 21 lawsuits that were filed. The challengers lost, of the 61 lawsuits filed, challenging the election in 2020 and allegedly articulating the fraud. 60 were lost by the challengers, and many of those decisions were made by judges that had been appointed by Donald Trump. The one where the challengers prevailed had to do with a COVID-related issue. How close can the monitors stand to the vote counters, even with masks on? Was 6 feet too close or too far? Was 10 feet too close or too far? In Pennsylvania, they wanted you 12 feet away, and the federal judge said, no, you can be 6 feet away, but wear masks. So it's the only challenge that prevailed. All the other challenges that Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and all the lawyers for Donald Trump filed, all of them lost after scrutiny by courts. So I don't believe that the 2020 election was fraudulent. There may have been some fraud. There is almost always some fraud, but there wasn't enough to change the outcome. The Constitution does not guarantee perfect elections. It guarantees fair elections. Will 2024 be secure? I think so. With all the people, well-intended people, friends of mine, people smarter than I am, people closer to this than I am, like you, Patrick Jean-Claude, think that 2020 was irregular, was fraudulent. There are so many people who think that I am convinced that the mechanisms put in place for 2024 will assure that A, it will not be fraudulent, and B, far fewer people will question the outcome, no matter what it is, whether Trump runs and loses again and can't believe that he lost and questions the outcome. It's against his Constitution for him to imagine himself losing. But where's the evidence, my dear friend? I say this, my dear friend, because he is my friend, even though on some issues we disagree. Great question. From Starman Hav. Hi, Judge. Why did you decide to become a judge? That's a great question. I decided to become a judge because I love the Constitution as it was written, to shrink the size of government, to restrain the size of government, to control the size of government, and to maximize individual liberty. Most judges don't believe that. And as a judge, I had the opportunity to recognize the locus of human liberty, the place of human liberty, which is within us. Human liberty comes from the human heart. Human liberty comes from your natural right, your right to live, your right to think as you wish, say what you think, publish what you say, associate or not associate, worship or not worship, to defend yourself using modern means, the same means that the bad guys and the government use, your right to be left alone, your right to travel, your right to privacy, your right to due process, government fairness. These rights don't come from the government. They come from your humanity. The government is restrained from interfering with them and obliged to protect and assure that those rights are protected. As a judge, I had the opportunity to do that. My most fulfilling days were when I could restrain the government from interfering with the natural rights of people. Good people, bad people, Americans, non-Americans, it doesn't matter. The Constitution was written to restrain the government against all people. I had 8 very happy years, even though it was a lifetime appointment. I had 8 very happy years as a judge. Well, you know why I left. This is public knowledge, even though this sounds selfish. I was tired of being poor. I didn't expect television. It came along. The opportunity was there. Roger Ailes was interested in trying me out as a commentator, and the rest of my personal life is history. Chris, any more? From Farouz Faris. I guess, Mr. Faris, you have donated $30 to Judging Freedom. Thank you very much for that. By the way, thank you to all of you that donate to Judging Freedom. We have a new and revamped website. We will announce it soon, and you'll find a lot of things there that you will like. But thank you for donating it, and thank you for what you said, Faraz. From Don Juan Plantages 0, question: can Article 3 overthrow unconstitutional laws? Okay, Article 3 is the article in the Constitution that establishes the judiciary. Way back when, in 1803, in a very famous case called Marbury versus Madison. I won't get into the facts in the case, they're a little convoluted. But in that case, the Congress gave the courts power. Congress gave the courts power. And the Supreme Court said Congress can't do that. Only the Constitution can give the courts power. So Mr. Marbury, who sued under this law where Congress gave the courts power to hear this case, filed his complaint in the wrong place. In doing that, the court invalidated a portion of the statute in which Congress gave courts the power. So it did 2 things. It invalidated Congress's exceeding its power. And for the first time on the federal level, it declared A, that it has the power of judicial review, and B, it exercised judicial review. What is judicial review? Judicial review is the inherent power of federal and state judges to review the behavior of the other 2 branches. In the case of a state judge, the governor and the state legislature. In the case of a federal judge, the president and the Congress. Judicial review is the power of judges to review what the other 2 branches have done and to decide if it is consistent with the Constitution. If it is, no matter the outcome, they must let it stand. If it is not, no matter the outcome, they must interfere with it and find it unconstitutional. In this case, Marbury against Madison was the first time that the federal courts had exercised judicial review. The state courts, even in the British colonial era, had exercised judicial review a lot. The state legislatures enjoyed telling a British colonial governor who had been appointed by the king that his behavior was unconstitutional. Of course, sometimes he then overruled them, but it was an entirely different system pre 1776. Judicial review is an essential part of our system today. The whole purpose of an independent judiciary is to be anti-democratic. The democratic branches of the government, lowercase d, are the popularly elected branches: executive, president or governor; legislative, state legislature or Congress. The judicial branch is the anti-democratic branch. Its job is to preserve the life, liberty, and property of individuals from the tyranny of the majority. I think I saw one question there. I think I saw the name of Max Blumenthal from Furious George. Max Blumenthal would be a great guest for the judge. The gray zone has done their homework in the Middle East. Yes, the gray zone has done their homework. Yes, Max Blumenthal would be a great guest for our show. Yes, Max is coming on the show. We'll announce it soon. Okay, that's enough for now. My throat is dry. 3:30 this afternoon, your favorite show, the Intelligence Community Roundtable with my buddies Ray McGovern and Larry Johnson. We'll see you then. Judge Napolitano, thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the subscriptions. We're up to 232,000. I think we will break 240 by Thanksgiving, and we will clearly break 250,000 by Christmas because of you. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.